Millions of people write their dream life in a notebook. They write about the money they want, the relationship they dream about, the job they keep imagining. And sometimes, months later, they swear something strange happened. The exact job appeared. The right person walked into their life. The money they had written about somehow showed up. They call it manifestation. Other people call it coincidence. And some people think it's nothing more than wishful thinking written in a pretty notebook. So who's actually right? 'Cause there's something interesting about scripting that most people never talk about. Maybe it isn't magic, but maybe it isn't completely useless either. Maybe something real is happening, just not necessarily the thing you think is happening. Let's start with the story. Her name was Emma. Every night before going to sleep, Emma opened the same black notebook. She had bought it on an ordinary Tuesday, without thinking much about it. On the first page, she wrote one sentence. "I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a career I actually love." Then she described it. She imagined waking up without feeling sick about going to work. She imagined having enough money to breathe. She imagined working somewhere that appreciated her. She imagined looking at her bank account without immediately feeling afraid. And then she wrote one more thing. "I finally feel like my life is moving forward." She closed the notebook. The next morning, nothing changed. Her alarm went off. She went to the same job, sat at the same desk, answered the same emails, and went home exhausted. But that night, she opened the notebook again, and she wrote the same kind of story. She did this for 5 minutes every night. Not for hours, not obsessively, just 5 minutes. Then something unexpected happened. About 3 weeks later, her friend sent her a message. "Hey, my company's hiring. I think you'd actually be really good for this." Emma almost ignored it. The job sounded too good. She didn't think she was qualified enough, but something about the message made her stop. So she applied. A few weeks later, she got an interview. And eventually, she got the job. Emma went back to her notebook and stared at the pages she had written weeks earlier. There it was. The exact kind of life she had described. And that's when she became convinced she had manifested it. But here's where the story gets interesting. Did Emma actually manifest the job? Or did writing about her dream life change something inside her that eventually changed what she did? Because those two explanations sound similar, but they're actually very different. And if we understand the difference, scripting starts to make a lot more sense. Scripting is basically a form of writing where you describe your desired future as if it's already happening. Instead of writing, "I want to get a better job," you write, "I am so grateful that I wake up every morning excited about my work." Instead of, "I want to become financially stable." You might write, "I feel peaceful knowing I'm becoming better with my money." The idea is that writing in this way makes the future feel emotionally real. And that's where psychology becomes interesting, because your attention is limited. You can't notice everything happening around you. Every day, thousands of things are happening around you that your conscious mind completely ignores. But when something becomes important to you, you start noticing it. Think about buying a particular type of car. Before you wanted it, you probably barely noticed that car on the road. Then suddenly, you see it everywhere. The cars didn't suddenly multiply. Your attention changed, And something similar can happen with goals. When you repeatedly write about something you genuinely want, you may start paying more attention to information, people, opportunities, and choices connected to that goal. That's not the universe secretly rearranging reality. That's your attention becoming more focused. And this is where Emma's story becomes much more interesting. Remember that message from her friend? The job opportunity was already there. Scripting didn't create the company. It didn't create the job opening. It didn't force her friend to send the message. But Emma almost ignored the opportunity. Why? Because she didn't think she was qualified. She had already decided that jobs like that weren't for people like her. But after weeks of writing about herself as someone who had a career she loved, something had shifted. Not magically, psychologically. She was beginning to see herself differently, and that tiny change made her more willing to apply. That's the part of manifestation stories that often gets left out. We hear, I wrote it down, and it happened. But we don't always hear about everything that happened in between. The application, the uncomfortable conversation, the decision to try, the rejection that might have happened before the successful attempt, the moment they almost gave up. Those actions are usually invisible in the manifestation story, but they're often where the real change happens. There's another part people underestimate. How you feel matters. Imagine waking up every morning thinking, my life is going nowhere. You might still take action, but everything feels heavier. Now imagine spending 5 quiet minutes reminding yourself what you're working toward. Not pretending your problems don't exist. Not lying to yourself. Just remembering where you want to go. That can change your emotional state, and your emotional state can influence your decisions. You might send the email you've been avoiding. You might finally apply for the job. You might start learning something new. You might stop texting someone who constantly makes you feel unwanted. You might save the money you were about to spend. None of those things are supernatural, but they can completely change the direction of your life. And sometimes, a small change in direction creates a result that looks almost magical from the outside. But we need to be honest about something. Scripting cannot guarantee that you'll receive exactly what you write. Writing, I have $10 million, doesn't create $10 million. Writing, this exact person loves me, doesn't control another human being. And writing, I got the job, doesn't remove the competition, timing, qualifications, or circumstances involved. There isn't good scientific evidence that thoughts written in a notebook can directly command the universe to rearrange reality. And that's important, because if we turn scripting into a promise that anything you want must happen, we create a dangerous problem. What happens when it doesn't? You might start blaming yourself. Maybe I didn't visualize hard enough. Maybe I had negative thoughts. Maybe I ruined my manifestation. And suddenly something that was supposed to help you becomes another reason to feel like you failed. That's not what scripting needs to be. There's another reason manifestation can sometimes look more powerful than it really is. Confirmation bias. We naturally pay more attention to things that support what we already believe. Imagine someone scripts for 6 months and nothing happens. They probably aren't making a viral video about it, but imagine someone scripts for 3 weeks, gets a new job, and believes it was connected. That's the story people share, and then thousands of people see that story. I scripted it, and it happened. What we don't see are all the notebooks sitting in drawers where nothing happened. That's why personal stories can be powerful without necessarily proving a supernatural explanation. Emma's story was real. Her job was real. Her notebook was real. Her excitement was real. But that doesn't automatically prove the universe delivered the job because she wrote about it. So, does scripting manifestation actually work? If you mean writing something down and magically forcing reality to give it to you, there isn't good evidence for that. But if you mean using writing to clarify what you want, keep your goals in your attention, influence your emotional state, and encourage yourself to take action, then yes, there are very real reasons it can help. And honestly, I think that's more interesting than magic, because it means you don't have to sit around waiting for the universe to save you. You can use the practice to change how you show up. Your notebook becomes a compass, not a magic wand. So if you want to try scripting, keep it simple. Take 5 minutes. Choose one goal. Write about it in a way that feels emotionally meaningful. But make sure the goal includes something you can actually influence. Instead of writing, I suddenly have $1 million. Try, I am becoming someone who handles money wisely and creates better opportunities. Instead of, the perfect job magically found me. Try, I am confidently applying for opportunities that match the life I'm building. Then close the notebook and do one thing, one real thing. Send the application, make the phone call, learn the skill, save the money, have the conversation, take the first step. Because scripting without action can become a beautiful way of avoiding action. And that's the trap. Maybe Emma didn't manifest her job in the way she thought she did. Maybe the notebook didn't send a signal into the universe. Maybe it simply reminded her every night of the person she wanted to become. And that reminder changed what she noticed. It changed what she believed she was capable of. It changed what she was willing to try. And eventually, those small changes created a very real result. So maybe the better question isn't, can I write my future into existence? Maybe it's, what kind of person do I become when I repeatedly remind myself where I want to go? Because maybe the notebook doesn't change your future. Maybe it changes the person who walks toward it. So tell me, if you knew you still had to take the first step yourself, what would you script? And if you enjoy stories that explore the space between psychology, spirituality, and the things we can't quite explain, this is what Universe Allow is all about. We'll see you in the next one.